Chapter 9, Lesson 1 is adding and subtracting fractions. So this is nothing new. We have seen how to add and subtract before. The only thing that could possibly be added here is the addition and subtraction of mixed numbers. Okay, so, if I'm not mistaken, most of the problems here are really just simple fractions. Okay, so on page 40, we will look at number 1. Okay, so clearly we should know by now that we can only add and subtract fractions if they have the same denominator. So our goal is to first make the denominators the same. So here, if we look at this, the lowest common denominator of this happens to be 24. Okay, so how do we know that it's 24? Sometimes the tool that I usually will teach students is to write down the table of 6 and the table of 8. So that would be 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Okay, we do a bit more of the smaller number and a fewer of the bigger number. So 8, 16, 24. So we stop when we see something that's common. Okay, so again, whatever it's easiest for the kids, that's what we want to do. So here from 6 to make to 24, I need to multiply by 4. Which means on the top, I need to multiply by 4, making this 20. So 5/6 is equivalent to 20 over 24. So to get 8 to become 24, I need to multiply that by 3. So which means I also have to multiply the numerator by 3, which means this is 21 over 24, making 7/8 equivalent to 21 over 24. So which means if now we add that together, we will end up with 41 over 24. Depending on the instructions, we can stop here or we can convert that to a mixed number. The instruction says express as a mixed number. So if we have to express as a mixed number, we need to divide. So that means if I take 41 divided by 24, that will be 1. And then this will be 24. Okay, then we will subtract. So borrow 3, that will be 11. From 4, we need 6 to get to 10 plus 1. So that's 7. Okay, and then this will be 17. So which means this is also the same as 1 and 17 over 24. So again, depending on the instructions, you can stop as a fraction or you can stop as a mixed number. Now, looking at G, this is a bit easier because it's already almost all the same. So our denominator will be 8. Okay, so we copy the 5 and we copy the 3. Okay, so clearly here, we need to multiply by 2, the denominator, to get 4 to 8. So that means when we multiply the 1 by a 2, that will be a 2. Now, if we add 5 plus 2 plus 3 is 10 over 8. Okay, so again, since the instruction says that we need to put in mixed number, we have a choice of dividing now or reduce and simplify first and then divide. So I will go ahead and reduce and simplify first. So I will divide by 2, which means that will be 5 over 4, which means 5 over 4 will be divide, subtract, remainder 1 is equal to 1 and 1/4. So that means when we add those three together, our final answer should be 1 and 1/4. When we subtract, we also need to remember that the denominators have to be the same. So our examples come from page 43. Number 1. So the instruction says subtract and express answer in simplest form. Okay, so letter B and E. Okay, so which means if we look at this, we know that we need to make the denominators the same. Now, if it's hard for the kids to come up with a lowest common denominator, the safest thing to do is just multiply the denominators together. Okay, it doesn't mean that it'll be in its simplest form right away, but since they know how to reduce, then it's easier that way. Just multiply the two denominators. Okay, so in this case, it happens to be 36 because that's the lowest common denominator. So if we multiply to make 9 into 36, I know I need to multiply by 4, which means I also need to multiply this by 4, making this 32. Okay, in the next fraction, to make that a 36, I need to multiply by 9, which means I need to also multiply this by 9, making that 9. So here, we need to subtract the 2, which means this will be 23 over 36. Okay, so this is already in its simplest form because that's an even and that's an odd, and that does not go into 3. So therefore, we're done with that. Now, in letter E, we have a whole. And remember, the whole can be written as any fraction that's number over number, the same number on top and bottom. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to look for the lowest common denominator first. So between these two, the lowest common denominator must be 4. So that means this is 4, this is 4, and this is 4. Since that's a whole, that makes this 4 over 4. Since this is already over 4, that means I copy. And since this is over 2, I need to multiply by 2, making this multiplied by 2 as well, making that 2. So which means if I take 4 minus 1, that's 3 minus 2, that's 1, making this 1/4. So that, again, is also in its simplified form. Therefore, I'm done with the problem. So again, parents and kids, when we add or subtract fractions, the denominator must be the same first. That's called the lowest common denominator. But there are times that it's hard to find the lowest common denominator. So the easiest thing to do is just multiply the two denominators. That concludes